Your leadership is about to level up, starting right now. My name is Isaac Wambua, and I want to personally welcome you to the Leadership Momentum Sprint. Over the next 30 days, I'm giving you the clarity, the confidence, and the momentum that most managers never get, but absolutely need. This is your daily dose of real leadership training. No fluff, no theory. Just practical tools you can apply before the day ends. Every single day, you'll get one lesson, one tool, and one simple action step designed to strengthen how you lead your people and how you show up at work. We're going to build your clarity. We're going to strengthen your communication. We're going to fix delegation. We're going to build accountability. We're going to align your team. And most importantly, we're going to expand your leadership confidence. By the end of these 30 days, you will step forward with a stronger voice, clearer direction, and systems that help you lead, instead of constantly chasing fires. So show up, learn, apply, and watch what happens when you commit to 30 days of leadership consistency. Let's build your momentum. Let's get started.
All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our training. My name is Isaac, and I'm going to be your host for the next 30 days. Thank you for being a part of this training. And we are calling this training the Leadership Momentum Series. And I'll tell you here in a second why we are calling it that. So just to be sure, let me know where you are tuning in from. And if you can hear me, we are streaming on basically all the major platforms on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. We are doing that as well. So depending on where you are watching from, just put that in the chat if you can hear me clearly, because that's important. So here's the deal. Today is the first day of December 2025, and literally we have 31 days till the end of the year. And how I came up with this series, last 2 weeks ago, actually, exactly 2 weeks ago, I did a training, and this was for consultants and coaches and people that are in the service industry. And it was all about how to take advantage of the next 45 days that we have left in the year. And what I talked about was how to build momentum starting right now. And one thing I know, going into 2026, the success that you're going to experience, whichever way you define success, is not going to be determined by the goals that you create and come up with on January 1st. It's not going to come from the momentum that you're trying to try and build on January 1st. It's going to your success is going to come from the momentum that you're going to have even before the 1st of January. So what I shared with them is how to basically push to finish the year strong. If you have some people on the fence, if you're in business like me, that have been trying to do business with you, but probably they haven't made a decision, you can probably nudge them a little bit. Or if you have a team like mine and you want to get them ready for 2026, you don't wait until January 1st. You set the goals right now, you get aligned, come 2026, you're good to go. So I gave them an analogy of being in a race. For those who like to sprint, so let's say you're going to run 100 yard dash or 100 feet. In the history of racing, and I used to do racing many years ago, I've never seen anyone slow down when they're about to get to the finish line. Most of the times you start running, and when you see the finish line, you basically do the best you can to accelerate and potentially win the race, or at least finish in a good spot. But what happens most of the times, as in business and in leadership, most of the times we get to December, basically the last month of the year, and then we slow down because we have the holidays and we think nobody's going to buy and nobody's going to listen. People are in that mood and vibe of holiday, and we slow down. That's a big mistake. I used to do that, and I didn't discover this secret of building momentum until I believe 6-7 years ago, because just like anyone else, I used to sit down and set up my goals on the 31st of December, crossing to the January 1st, and that was cute. And to me, it was just powerful, staying up late because I was ushering the new year. But what I found was that most of the times your goals are never very clear until you start working on them. So what I did, I switched from setting up my goals on December 31st to the second week of November, and basically before Thanksgiving for those who are in the US. And that was a game changer for me. And I still do the same thing where I set my goals way before Thanksgiving. And that means I have a runway of a whole month to review those goals, get to refine them, get a team aligned, and get to answer any questions people might have. So that's the reason why I decided to do the Leadership Momentum series, so I can help you, especially if you're a middle manager or a leader, or you own a company or you lead a company and you have leaders, especially in the middle management. We can help them to build momentum, getting ready for 2026. Now, they don't own the company, but they lead the team, which means they contribute towards the success or the failure of your company. And if you really want to win, and I'll give you some statistics here, if you really want to win big in your business, and especially in 2026, you have to get your leaders trained. So as we do this, I'm going to introduce you my assistant, Marianne. Let me see if she's there. Marianne, are you there? If you want to turn on the camera, there we go. Marianne is going to be helping me to with this training. So Marianne, do you want to say hi? Okay. I'm not sure I can hear you. I think your sound might be muted or something. Okay, there we go. So it's okay. Marianne is going to be watching the comments. So if you have any questions, okay, thank you. I see some comments from Huntington Fish with, okay, there we go. Several people here can't pronounce the names, but most of them have some usernames there. Okay, awesome. Thank you for watching. Marianne, thank you for what you're doing. She's going to be watching the comments. So if you have any questions, just put them in there. So those that have been around my network for a while, you know that I got into writing books. And my very first book that I wrote is called Now That I'm a Manager, What Do I Do Next? It's a question. There's a story behind it. When I was done with college, my very first job, I was hired as an assistant production manager. I was given 65 people to lead. I failed terribly. Within 2 weeks, I quit the job, went to another company, got another job as a manager. I struggled with that as well, and I decided that I would never be a manager. So I decided to become a regular engineer because that's what I went to school for. And I did engineering for several years. Then I moved to the United States in 2007. Did my grad school, and guess what? The very first job I got was an assistant manager, and that's how I got into it. So I figured, hey, since I'm struggling as a leader and as a manager, why not learn about this management thing? Fast forward, I've had great mentors, people that trained me, companies that really invested money and enrolled me into training programs, and that's how I got, really I got into leadership, and I developed a very special interest in leadership. So when I got into business 11 years ago, I launched a consulting company to help companies with systems and processes, because again, that's what I do. That's what I did in my regular job. And then I got into leadership development in 2015. Decided to build all those programs. So when I decided to write books, and that was in 2018, I didn't really publish the book until 2022. The question I had was, what is it that I need to know? Okay, what is it that I wish I had when I got my first job? What kind of skills and strategies and insights do I wish I had when I got my first job? And the question was, how can I make it as simple as possible for the managers that are leading people today, or at least either an aspiring manager or a new manager or an emerging leader? How can I make it as simple as possible, but also powerful for them? And that's why I decided to write the book, Now That I'm a Manager, What Do I Do Next? So that was 2022. Then 2023, I published a second book for kind of higher tier managers, and it's called Take the Leap, Mastering the Transition from Employee to Manager. And again, since I'm in the systems side as well of business, I wrote 2 books on systems and processes for companies. That was this year, actually, 2025. And the reason I'm telling you this story is because I just revised the very first book I wrote, Now That I'm a Manager, What Do I Do Next? And actually, let me see. That's the book. It has a different cover and different content. Actually, this book is 80% totally different from the first book. Now, why did I decide to revise this book? If you look back, I started to write this book in 2020, then 2021, published in 2022. This is 2025. Things have changed since COVID came. we got into remote work and people being in different time zones, basically being in the same team. Things have changed a little bit now. We are more kind of sensitive, which we should have been from a long time ago, to people's needs and being able to slow down and support them. Mental health is a big thing. So with this book, really, it's all about helping managers and leaders like you to lead in the modern age. And that's why the subtitle is How to Lead with Clarity, Confidence, and Courage in the Modern Workplace, based on the demands that the employees who lead have today. So that's the book that I revised, and it just got approved by Amazon this last week. So the books are on Amazon, and we haven't done the launch yet. So if you're in Kansas City, most likely you'll get an invite for a book launch in January. So the reason I'm telling you this is because I decided to do this leadership momentum series so that I can give you the new insights that I have, the new tools that I developed, the new lessons that I learned as I was writing, as I was revising this book, and also give you that momentum. So come 2026, you'll be good to go. So what you are going to do for the next 30 days, you are going to get a live stream like this one. Some of the sessions are going to be recorded, especially on the weekends. But it's going to be a lesson. So it's 30 days, 30 lessons, and 30 tools that you'll be able to use. So this is not a training based on fluff of just really assumptions. This is going to be a real training that you can use. So let's get to the training, and I'm going to share the worksheet. Give me a second here. If I can get this to work. There we go. So our lesson today, lesson 1, is the leadership influence map. Now, if you run a company or you run a business or you're a leader, you know there are 3 levels and 3 dimensions of leadership. You lead up, you lead across, and you lead down. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Every emerging leader out there, every aspiring leader, every new manager needs to learn how to lead in those dimensions. So the purpose for this training really is to help you clearly define the 3 spheres of leadership influence. Now, if you've read a book by John Maxwell called The 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership, it talks about leadership being influence, nothing more, nothing less. And that's very true. It's all about getting people to do what they're supposed to do willingly. You know, the old school way of management where you had to muscle people and force them to do things or threaten them. If they don't do them, you're going to fire them, or, you know, you're going to mess up their career. No, those days are gone, and I hope you don't do that. We live in an age where we really want to understand our people. We want to create a good environment for them. We want to produce results, yes, but also we want to be able to connect with people. Now, we can't just focus on feeling good about the work. We got to produce results. Otherwise, you're not going to be in business tomorrow. And if you're running a team, you're not going to have a job. So that's why it's crucial and important more than ever before for you and I to learn how to influence up, down, and across. So when you look at this one, this particular tool is called sphere mapping. And I'm not sure if you can see it. I hope you can see it clearly. We have you, the leader, in the middle, and then we have leading up. And leading up is all about working with the people that set your priorities. And this could be your boss, your supervisor, the director, the people that have given you expectations, what you're supposed to do every single day, deadlines and timelines, success metrics for every day, for every week, for every month, and potentially they get to do your review. So you as a manager and as a leader, most likely you have someone who is above you. So how do you influence them? How do you get them to get you what you want? Now, there are several things you can do. And actually, I talk about that in the revised book that I just shared with you. Most of the people, if they are like me, I have a team and I have people that basically are working with me. We get to be very busy, as we should be. Our time is constrained by demands, either building the business, attending conferences, doing classes, all kinds of stuff. So technically, we don't have time for unnecessary stories. Now, that sounds a little bit mean, but if your boss has never told you, they don't have time for that. The time they have is for you to show up and say, hey, this is what I'm doing right now. This is what's working. This is what I'm struggling with. Can you help me with that? Be precise, be able to communicate that very well. Now, there's a time for you to hang out, maybe lunchtime or break time or whichever time has been set up by the company. But most of the times, if it's during working hours, they expect you, number one, to lead yourself, to know what you should be focusing on because you've been given those priorities and those goals, and be able to communicate clearly what you want if you want something from them. So that's one of the fastest ways to influence your boss, to know what you're working on, what's working, what's not working, and the help that you need. Okay. Talking about leading across, this is about the peers who affect your work. Could be people that are running different departments or they have different teams. There's a company here in Kansas City that I've had the privilege of working with their teams since 2023. And, this is a good sized company where they have they're working for the same company, but they have different teams. And each of those leaders have 7 to 8 people that they are leading. Sometimes they get to work together. And we did a training, which was a 10-week training. And one of the things that came up was that people saying, hey, man, I didn't know that you struggle with that. I didn't know you work on that. And I'm going to be reaching out to you so you can help me with this particular thing. I mean, how beautiful is that for your managers to be able to collaborate? Most of the times they never get that chance. And you can only get that opportunity to benefit from your peers if you intentionally reach out to them. So how do you influence them to get you what you want? Not in a selfish way, but because you have a need, and you'll be surprised how much they'll be willing to help you out. So that's leading across. That's influencing across. And then we have leading down, and that's easy because you are a manager or you're a leader and you have people that are working underneath you. So these are the people who depend on your clarity. And I put that word there on purpose. As I was doing research for this book and the next book that's coming out here in a few months, which I believe you'll like it, is that clarity is the biggest determinant of how fast you are going to get the results that you're trying to get. It's about clarity. When you're clear on the path and the goals and the strategies and the results that you're going to get, you can move very fast towards that. So there are people that depend on your clarity. If it's not clear to you, most likely it's going to be chaos and confusion in their head. But that's a real line that I have in my upcoming book. Not because I'm smart, but I did all this research and I had to narrow down how can I summarize this particular concept. And it's all about, if it's not clear in your head, it's going to be chaos and confusion in their heads as well. So these team members look for you for direction, for expectations, alignment, and accountability. Just the same way that your superiors, the people that you are trying to influence up, give you expectations, and they have targets that they have set for you. You need to do the same for your people. Okay, so these are the direct reports. Could be the coordinators within your team if you have a big team, contractors if you have people that do some work for you, support staff. In our company, we use contractors sometimes for leadership training, and sometimes for stuff like video editing. Like now we are doing this 30-day video series. Potentially we are going to have this in our learning management system, and we give it for free, by the way. So if you're watching this on replay, at some point you'll be able to get access to it for free. Now, for us to make sure it looks really good, we got to send the video to a video editor. No, we get to subcontract that out because we don't have an expert in our team, or at least it doesn't make sense for us to hire someone to do full-time video editing in our company. So let's talk about your application. So we talked about the sphere mapping, where you are influencing up, you are influencing right across, and you're influencing down. So how does this apply to you? What I'd like you to do is to look at the people that you are supposed to influence up, or at least you are attempting to influence up. Write down those people's names. Could be potentially one person, could be your boss, or maybe you are reporting to different people. So what's their name? That's going to be your application right there. What's their role? What's their title? Write that down. And then what clarity do you consistently need from them? I said that the people that you are leading down, basically your team members and your direct reports, they depend on your clarity the same way you depend on your bosses or your superiors' clarity. So the question is, what clarity do you consistently need from them? What's the thing that you're always going back to them for that's not clear? Is it instructions? Is it, delegation? They give you a task and then you got to go back to clarify. Is it the expectations? Are they written down? Are they clear? If there's something that almost every single day or every single week you got to go back to them, then you need to write it down, because you need to go to them and say, hey, can you clarify this for me? I think that's going to be helpful. And as you do that, you'll be leading up as well. Let's talk about right across. Cross-functional peers. Make a list of peers whose collaboration you rely on. Now, in my case, I run the company. I own Dynamo Methods. That's my company. But when I used to be an engineer, I was in charge of the engineering department. So I had to work with people in HR. I had to work with people in sales and marketing. I had to work with people in product development. So basically that was needed, because our engineers, for them to be able to design stuff, we needed the prototype, from design. We needed we needed to get instructions and a clear direction on when we're going to go to market. So we had to collaborate really, really big time. So in your case, who do you need to collaborate with? What's their department, and what alignment do you need with them? When you talk about alignment, is being able to look at the company's goals and basically the big vision and the goals that have been set and the targets, and you're all moving towards the same direction. So we have someone running marketing and sales and operations and service delivery and finance and leadership and training and HR and all that. So are we aligned, basically moving towards the same direction? Are we rowing in the same direction? That's what I mean by alignment. I've been a part of leadership team discussions where we had all these senior people. Some of them are just full of themselves, just to sort of say, and big egos. They get into the discussions where someone who is in charge of sales, they feel they're better than everyone else because according to them, they're bringing all the money. That's not true, because for you to be able to sell, someone had to make the product, someone had to create the service, someone has to create the framework and all the stuff really that you are using. So it's possible to have those kind of egos. And what I saw was people really passionate about what they do, good at what they do. Some of them were great at what they did, but they were not aligned. They were not moving towards the same direction. And it's the job of the leader to get people all aligned, or at least to facilitate the process of making sure we are all aligned. So if there's any department head out there or a manager within your company that somehow you don't get along or you're not aligned, you may want to go to them and have that discussion. And if you're not able to do that, then you may want to talk to your boss and ask them to facilitate that. So let's talk about leading down. And these are the people who depend on your leadership. They depend on your clarity. So list the people who rely on your clarity and expectations. This should be an easy one, because these are your team members. If you are 5 or 50, list all of them down, their names, their role. And the question is, what expectations do you need to clarify for them? What expectations do you need to clarify for them? You never know how unclear your message is and your expectations until you start sharing these expectations, and you are all excited, and then you look at your team members' faces and they are just there, sometimes emotionless, and you're like, what's going on? And they go like, we don't know what you're talking about. Now, if they are really free with you, they will tell you. I have someone in my team who basically keeps me in line. I move fast. Sometimes I have, I get to think stuff, and in my head I had this conversation, or at least it's clear in everybody's mind, but it's not, because I've been thinking about it, working on it for months and months. And when I present to the team, sometimes I forget that they're hearing this for the first time, or at least they don't know all the details. So what this particular person has taught me is, as you are building stuff, give us access. And that's what it is. We have a Google Drive, and we have folders in there. They have access to what I'm building. If there's something I need to hide so I can clarify it, I'll have that on a different folder, and then I drop it in there. It just makes it very easy. And quite often, this individual goes like, hey, we need to have a meeting so we can talk about where we are going. We just had one on Monday this past week. And the week before, she said, I want to know what you are focusing on for 2026, the programs that we are going to promote, the new things that you are creating, and where we are going. And I said, yeah, we can meet for an hour on Monday. And she said, no, I need 3 hours. And I almost resisted, but I said, yeah, 3 hours it is. So we met on Monday. We really went through all that, and now we are going to present to the whole team where we are going. So the point is, you need to slow down for your people, and the expectations that you're giving them sometimes may not be that clear. So the third one, where you're going to list down all your team members, especially when you have a big team, it might take a while, but it's worth it. Okay. So number 3, let's talk about analyzing your leadership gaps. And this is the last segment that we are going to work on today for this lesson. So the question is, which sphere is receiving most of your attention? So you have the people that you are trying to influence up, you have right across, that's your peers, and you have leading down, that's your direct reports. So which of those is receiving most of your attention? Is it up, down, or right across? Which sphere are you unintentionally neglecting? You being a leader, of course, I believe you are responsible. That's why you still have that position. And I believe you're driven, because leadership is not easy, especially when you're leading in the middle. Again, as I was revising my book, I came across a term called living in the squeeze. Living in the squeeze, where the expectations from top, really, for you to be able to understand the vision, interpret that vision, digest that information, and then pass it on to your team members without drama and as fast as possible, and without losing the weight and the meaning of the vision. And then you have people right across, they're all demanding, hey, can you help me with this? Can you do this for me? And because you're a nice person and responsible, you say yes and yes and yes until you get your time gets squeezed. Then you have your team members that are expecting you to clarify the expectations. They expect you to step in when they are going through a rough time. When someone calls in because their kid is sick, you got to step in and do something. So you find you're going to live in the squeeze. So you are likely to give, just by in that context, you are likely to give your sphere of leading down the most attention because you're trying to survive. You're also likely to give influencing up, the top executive people, more attention because they are demanding. Who knows? Or maybe there's a new initiative for 2026 and everybody's talking about it, and they are calling all meetings, by the way, 3-4 meetings every single day. I've gone through that before. It used to drive me crazy. Not because meetings are bad, but because some of them were unnecessary. I mean, why would you set up a meeting on a Monday afternoon, and then the following morning we have another one at 7 in the morning, and when are we going to get the work done? So which of those spheres is receiving the most attention? By the way, we'll talk about meetings here in a later session, and I have a whole chapter, by the way, talking about meetings in this particular book, because meetings are not just a way to spend time. It's a way to clarify the vision and get the team to move forward and have clarity. So where is clarity breaking down? When you think about up, across, and down, where is clarity breaking down? Only you would know, but write it down. Who needs alignment from you this week? Whether it's people right across, people from up, or people down, who needs clarity from you? And what are you going to do about it? Then number 4, which is an action plan for you this week, it's basically you saying, this week I will intentionally improve leadership clarity in these areas. So clarity with who? Make sure you write a name, or clarity with this task, or clarity with this particular assignment. Align with, again, if you can write somebody's name, that's okay. Or if you don't want to write their names on a piece of paper, you can just write their title. And then reset expectations with, and most likely it's going to be with pretty much at least one person that you are trying to influence up or down or right across. I'll tell you a quick story. Many years ago, over 15 years ago, I had a boss, and he was my new boss. I was transferred to a new region, and when I got there, this guy was in charge of the region. And one of the managers told me, hey, I just want to tell you something about our boss. This guy doesn't really plan much. He can call you to a meeting anytime. He can call you on your day off. And he expects you to respond immediately. And I remember thinking, okay, this is going to be interesting. Now, just to give you some kind of background, I had worked with companies where I gave my 100%, like literally, I didn't have a life of my own on purpose. I don't blame them. So I was the guy who was the first one to show up, the last one to leave. I would show up on my day off. If I'm called on a weekend, on a Sunday at night, I was there. I didn't mind. And then one day I got sick. And I called my boss and I said, I'm not feeling well. I was really, really sick. And she said, okay, you got to find someone to work for you. And I was like, wow, that's interesting. Because I was expecting my boss really just ask one of my colleagues to do that. So I called my colleague, talked to them. They said, okay, I'm going to cover your shift. But I got thinking, okay, this is someone that I've showed up for. And I mean my boss, when I didn't have to, I didn't get paid extra. I was on a salary, no overtime, not because I was expecting it, but I worked really, really hard. It wasn't for the company. It was because I really liked this boss. So when I got that reaction, and of course, several other things that happened after that, I said, okay, for the next company that I'm going to work with, it's going to be, I just put my time and then I'm done. So here I am in a new region and I'm told this guy changes everything. And I said, okay, this is going to be interesting because I got to set the boundaries. So the guy shows up predictably and he said, I want to talk to you on how I like to work with my managers. And I said, okay, that's good because actually I wanted to talk to you on how I like to work with my bosses. And he looked at me, I was like, what do you mean? And I said, you have expectations on me. I'm going to have some expectations on you in a good way. And as soon as I said that, honestly, I freaked out because I was like, I'm going to get fired. And surprisingly, I didn't. This boss of mine, we ended up having a very good discussion. And he said, I really appreciate that, Isaac, because I never thought that I should allow my managers to set expectations with me as well. And basically what I shared with him is that I'm trying to get a very good work-life balance. The last time I worked 90 hours a week, I got sick. My health really is important to me. And for me to be able to produce and be productive and be able to perform at a high level, I need to be healthy. So I said, if it's an emergency, by all means, I need to be called. If it's not an emergency, then don't need to call me. And I meant my team. Then I said, I'm going to be taking a Wednesday off and then I'll work on weekends so I can measure the weekends on a high note and well. So on my days off, that's when I run my errands. Unless it's an emergency, I don't want to get any calls. When I get off work, I don't want to get calls unless it's an emergency. The point was, unless it's a real emergency. And that worked very well. Now, it didn't make me lazy all of a sudden or mean, but it's because I had to set those boundaries. And that's what, we had one of the best working relationships with my boss. So it's hard. And I'm not saying you get all dramatic and you go to your boss and say, hey, we got to set expectations and I gotta set boundaries with you. If you do that, trust me, you're gonna get fired because that's being disrespectful. So all we demand, even if you're going to ask for something, we demand two things, and we teach people to do those two things. You need to be respectful even when you are complaining, and you need to be professional. You've got to combine the two and don't allow yourself to lose your core, because when you lose your core, it means you've lost control of your emotions, and that makes you a very bad leader. So let me see here. So going back to our worksheet here, that's what you need to do this week. Make sure that you go through those steps, and that's it with this particular tool that we are using, which is the sphere mapping tool. Now, this is a real tool. If you want to download this specific worksheet, I'm going to put that link in the chat. So if you want to give me a second, I'll grab that for you. And my worksheet is a PDF, but the link I'm going to give you is actually it's a Google folder that we are going to put every worksheet in there. So today we have this first one. Tomorrow when we do the training, we are going to drop the second one. It might be there already, I'm not sure, but that's the folder that's going to have all the worksheets that we are using for the next 30 days. The worksheets are in Google Doc, so if you want to edit them and use them for your team, you can do that. There's no opt-in. You don't have to worry about anything. I'm not worried about the intellectual property stuff. This is my stuff, by the way. I have created these, so you don't have to worry about infringing on anyone's stuff. Feel free to download, use it as much as you can. All you need to do when you go to the folder, it's not going to allow you to save the folder. You need to create your own folder, and then you copy the Google Doc and you save it in your own drive. That's the only thing you need to do, because again, we don't want it to be messed up. We want our team to be able to use it without anyone interfering. So let me grab that link for you. And as I do this, if you have any questions, let me know. Again, we are going to be here for the next 30 days, every single day. Some of the sessions are going to be live streamed. Others are going to be recorded as a video, especially on weekends. So there is the link for the drive. You can use it. Let me see if we have any questions. Give me a second. Marianne, do we have any questions that you can see? I can't see any from my side. And again, thank you for joining me for this training. So as we get done here, now today's session was a little bit long, 35 minutes, because we had the intro, but these sessions are going to be about 20 to 25 minutes max. So like I said, the goal is to help you build momentum. So going into 2026, you'll be good to go. If you're an emerging leader, a supervisor, a manager, and you want to win in 2026, do well in the company that you work with, or if you're a leader who is trying to learn how to lead and you have a team, then this is going to be a good leadership momentum series for you. It's free of charge. There's no opt-in. I just want to give you that as a gift, and hopefully we'll get to, if you're in Kansas City, of course, or maybe the other places that I get to speak, if we get to meet in person, we'll get to interact. So thank you again for being a part of this training. Wish you all the best, and I'll see you tomorrow.